Okay, so we're reading Teaching When the World's on Fire.
Yes, we are both reading the same book.
Yeah.
So the way Teaching When the World's on Fire works is like they have sort of main different headers, and then every single chapter is a different author with a different opinion on that sort of header. Right?
Yeah, and then they have like different sections. So right now we're in the politics section.
Yes. So we read sort of the intro and the politics section of it. So what did you think?
I like it. I think it's really interesting because like I don't know. I guess I always wonder like how much of an opinion can I have that I can share, I guess,
That's
with
an interesting
students.
point. Yeah, because like you never want to like go against a code of conduct or say or do anything that's so one way. That's like because I really liked that chapter. We'll break it down a little better later. But the how to talk to your kids about Trump thing, because I know like you shouldn't have a political opinion in your classroom. Like that's
Yeah.
like, I think that's we learned about that in law. Like you can't say you're like super liberal or super
Yeah,
conservative.
like biased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I thought
didn't.
like
Sorry. So I didn't know you could be like Trump's a liar, and he's like you shouldn't believe what he says. But that guy seemed to say like as long as you can prove facts that he is talking like obviously racist and obviously um lying, that you can like say that. I didn't know you could
yeah.
do that. I'd be still like worried to do that though, even though
Yeah, I think he did it in a good way. Like I really liked how he kind of like made questions where they were kind of more neutral
right.
questions,
Yeah,
but obviously what they would find would kind of lead them in the direction of this
exactly. What were
because the
those
facts did
forming
support kind of his opinions, in
yeah,
my
what were
opinion.
those four main questions? I thought they were like just sort of really
I
like
might have them here. Hold on.
yeah, them too. I'll pass them. I don't. It was like, how is he showing that he's a politician? Can you fact check them? There was one question that I really liked. I thought it was a really interesting way of saying it, but now I can't. Oh, why does Trump use controversial rhetoric? Like, why does he do what he does? Like, get the media interested in him. The whole world talks about him and makes him more interesting, and that makes him have more votes. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of those, like you said, non-biased ways of asking questions about him that provides like an opportunity for students to open up sort of their minds and stuff. And I also thought it was interesting that he said like when he was doing the last election with Mitt Romney and Obama, most people in his class were for Obama. So he talked a lot about Mitt Romney's stance. So then you could sort of see like the two different sides. That was
Yeah.
obviously this book is American. That's like one thing that's like a sort of a negative about this book is that it's American. I think it's still like relevant, but like I bet you
Yeah.
there's a section on indigenous stuff, isn't there?
I think there might have been like a chapter or something that
But I
talked
bet
about.
you like it won't be as in depth or important through indigenous
Yeah.
than like typically what we should be learning about. But I mean it touches on a lot of other stuff like gender, sexuality and racism and stuff like that. But
There was this one, oh, what was it about? It was they were talking about tests, I think. And they were talking about how hold on.
oh, was it like about how like if that's your only goal, then it's a terrible goal?
Yeah.
Hmm. That was interesting too.
I made a comment on it. Hold on. This blah blah blah.
Get more used to how you highlight things.
Anyways, it was something like um talking about how we're always telling students how like grades aren't the important thing, it's how much you learn, but then the like basically the amount of money a school gets is based on the grades, so it does matter in the long run because that's what determines your resources and stuff like that, which is
Yeah.
like kind of American thing because the school like Canadian school system doesn't run on your allocation of resources based on your like test scores and like how well your
Does
students
it not?
do.
No, but yeah, I remember Grant saying that in one of the classes, and he was
Yeah.
saying so schools that do better get more money, which really is completely
Yeah.
inverse of what should happen because they shouldn't.
Yeah.
But then he was telling us like the provincial exams do make a difference. Like, they do matter. They super look at them and they look at
Yeah.
schools and like they do matter, because he was saying that like one school is
Mhm.
being a little sketchy with them, once in New Brunswick or
Yeah.
something.
And I was like, like on my comment, I don't know, I can't find it now, but I
Sorry.
wrote something like I don't know if this necessarily applies to Canada in like that sense, but it made me
Right.
think of like we're always telling students, oh, like your grades don't matter, it's what you learn, which is how I feel about grades, but in a way it does, because if they want to go to like university or college or something, the grades do really matter, and that could like really make or break you getting into university or college or
Exactly.
so.
But he like that focus on like, especially in the United States, like on those standardized tests, like they say,
Mhm.
are a business.
Yeah, or SAT or whatever
Yeah,
to get
exactly.
to university. Yeah.
It's crazy. Um, yeah. Chapter on like racism and stuff I thought was interesting. I thought it was interesting how they were saying like, you know, racism doesn't just mean you use like derogatory words and comments. More than often than not, you can be racist by doing racist things. And often like people in the news and stuff like aren't called out for that. Like there was some NBA or player. You okay?
Hold on a second.
Okay. Oh, she's gone. Oh, she's back.
Okay. Anyways,
Hey,
on my cat pajamas, but
that's okay. That's why we're in quarantine mode. I'm wearing a friend's sweater. Um, and like my dirty dishes are just like just right there, like not right in here, just right there. So it's perfect. Yeah, no, I know the racism chapter, that was interesting, and I think that Canada is probably a little bit ahead of the United States in terms of like attempting to at least fix some of the problems, especially with Indigenous racism. But I am in no way blind to think that we're anywhere close to appropriate for that. And I know too that since I'm white and colonial and all that, that I don't see it to the extent that other people see it.
yeah. I really liked like the chapter, which I think is the one you're talking about, like on racism, with like the Spanish teacher. That one?
Yes, and the restorative
Yeah.
justice.
The
Yeah,
the talking circle that they
yeah,
did, I thought that was really good. And it just like honestly, I started tearing up a little bit
I
when like she
know.
said like how it made her feel.
Right, I
And like
know.
how the kids like when they heard that they were like so shocked that they like she was taking on the blame for like their
Yes.
actions and stuff, and how like that just I don't know, like being able to talk like freely and stuff like really did help.
Yeah,
Like
and I was thinking
yeah.
about how you could implement that in like more of a day-to-day life, because like obviously that like the parents were involved, it must have been after
Mhm.
school, like it must have been like a big meeting. I liked how, first of all, it wasn't done like right at that moment, because maybe it would have been sort of the wrong time. It was
Yeah.
kind of neat how maybe the kids had time to reflect and be like, oh, that was kind of weird of us, and then give everybody time to think. And like you said, it was really good to say, like for the teacher to say how it affected her, for sure.
There was like this thing we did in when I lived in Alberta when I was like going to school there, and it was called Challenge Day. And like I don't know if it's just an Alberta based program or if they do it other places, but basically we had these speakers come in and it was like a whole day like based on like kind of getting to understand like all your classmates better, and it was like to help with like bullying and stuff like that. And we talked about like we did one of those like lines where like if the question applies to you, like step on the line, and if it doesn't, like step off the line kind of thing. And it was like about like race and like socioeconomic status and like all that kind of stuff. And
You
then
like it?
yeah, but then we also did like we shared like stories about like our life and stuff like that. Like we talked about like trauma. Like you didn't have to, but you could like share and stuff. And it was just like to understand people and like where they come from and like how they're dealing with things. And it was just like so like it was like this big thing that they did every single year with like I think it was like the grade 6 students or something when they came to the middle school.
Yeah.
And like every year they did it and it was like such a good thing. There was like a lot of crying and stuff, but it was like
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it was it a small school?
Yeah, it was in a really small town, but I think they did it in like other towns
Oh,
too.
it was almost like
It's
they like a
like a
traveling.
company kind of thing that like
Right.
travel.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, interesting. Because we did something similar to that in, what course was that with Kim? You know, we had to do the
Yeah.
stairs,
Oh yeah, yeah. It was sort of like that. It was just kind of to see like how like racism and like
socioeconomics and stuff. And I did really
affects your
like
life.
it, but
Yeah.
I did have like a feeling of awkwardness in my body
Yeah.
during it. But I think that that's like almost the point, to sort of like realize your prejudice and
Hmm.
be able to sort of like take that down or whatever, because it was a
Yeah.
weird feeling for sure. Cool. Yeah, that restorative justice thing was really cool. It'd be interesting to see how you could implement that, like, because that was obviously a pretty big deal, like them basically booing the teacher out of the classroom. But to find a
Yeah.
way to sort of like implement those like ideas into like a more like less dramatic fashion.
Hmm.
Interesting for sure. I'm excited to get to like, although I like the political one, like we said, where it's American, I'm also interested to kind of continue on through like gender and
Yeah. I think that's like the part I'm like most looking forward to is like gender and then
like,
maybe climate change, even though there's only like 2 chapters on climate change.
oh
But
right, yeah, I forgot about climate change. Yeah, it hits so many of those options that Marcia said, and I like how like, because as we're going to be educators, we have to sort of have
yeah.
decent knowledge of everything. So it's
Yeah.
nice to kind of like just hit the highlights of the sort of important issues. So
Hmm.
good find on this book.
Yeah.
Where did you find
Like
this book?
I was just looking online and then I found, I don't know if it was like Yale or like one of like the Ivy Leagues. They had like this education link and it was like the best books for educators of like they do one every year, whatever.
Yeah,
So I was just like looking through there and then I found some that I liked and then I just found some online and stuff. So I think it
yeah,
was one of those lists.
it seems awesome.
Mhm.
Sorry, that was a bit of a sidebar. Yeah, what else did I highlight here? Um,
Oh, mine was just like I was just kind of shocked because like it was in the introduction
yeah,
and it was like um she was talking about like in her in from 1963 to 1964. This is like what she said: my 6th grade year was tough for me and for all my age mates. The next few years were pretty tough as well, as the fight for civil rights escalated, the Vietnam War intensified, and the Cold War heightened. It was a difficult time to be a child, and yet somehow the world feels more frightening now for children and adults. I thought that was kind of shocking because like hearing about like all this stuff she went through just in one year, that seems like a lot. But like her thinking that even now is more like
and
frightening.
that was before Corona.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it's true. And even because David, is that his name? Our
Yeah,
First Nations
David.
educator?
Yep.
Yeah, because he was saying the same, like, because he went to like a, what's it called?
Indian Day School.
Indian Day School, exactly. And then his transition out of that. And like, that sounds like something that was so long ago, but it really wasn't at
Hmm.
all, right? He went there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know, like, there's so much changes. And then like, the correlation between like her Cold War exercises and then the gun violence
Yeah.
exercises, which is something that I have never experienced until this October in my practicum. And I'm like, I'm not old, like I'm not young, but like I'm not that much older than you. And
Yeah.
that didn't exist when I was in school. And now it's like at least once a semester they do it. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of creepy.
We had like a threat when I was in school. When I lived in Rocky and then when in Camilton we had a scare. It was kind of
Right.
kept on like the down low, but like it's a small town and we all kind of heard about it.
Yeah, the day before March break in Nova Scotia, actually, they canceled every single school across the Cape Breton Regional School Board and shut down every single office because of some imminent threat.
Wow.
And truthfully, because of Corona, like I don't, it sort of just like fell off to the wayside. Nobody, I don't even know what happened with it. I'm not sure, but obviously nothing bad happened. But it was
Hmm.
bad enough that they canceled every single school in the board.
Yeah.
Anyway, so crazy. Yeah, what did I highlight? Oh yeah, like just what you are doing to keep an eye on policy or law and how you're working to dismantle the institutional and structural expression of white supremacy in your classroom or in the broader community. I think is important to sort of figure out, like think about like not just what your school is doing
Hmm.
to help students of different nationalities, but what you're doing yourself in the classrooms. And she said that chapter where the person put up like the 4 reasons why she still teaches.
Yeah.
Did she leave them in a mirror in her own home or were they posted in her classroom?
No, in her own home. So like she'd see them when she was getting ready for work in the morning.
Yeah, I wondered like if they would benefit from being in her classroom too.
Yeah.
So like her students know her reasons and her expectations of the class or whatever too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I know. So what are we doing for next time? Is there anything else? I feel like that's it,
I
right?
feel like that's kind of the stuff that stuck out to me.
Same.
Um,
Oh yeah, just the last thing about the trauma. Computer's gonna go dead. I have time. Um, the Trump one I thought was interesting was just the use of Twitter, like how he didn't know how to handle something in school and he just like threw a tweet out there. And I know
yeah.
like Scott talked about Twitter last semester a bit, and I got like an educator Twitter and I didn't really use it that much. But since I followed enough people that I see people who use it a lot, and I definitely see the benefit of educator Twitter for sure. Like I have these like PE and health teachers in the States and in Canada who are like sharing all their resources, and it's awesome. So I liked the idea of like he was like, hey, I don't know how to talk to my kids about this. How do you talk about this? Your kids send tweet, which I thought
Yeah.
was
Also, I
fresh.
think it's like just kind of like a nice reminder, like if you don't know how to handle something, like there's people out there around you that you can go to help for help. And like it's even this book is nice that it's like written by different authors, so you get like a lot of different perspectives and like advice. So,
Exactly. And you will develop those relationships as a teacher, but you might not have them right away. Like your first
mhm.
year as a teacher, you might not feel comfortable like, oh, I'll just ask the other biology teacher what they're doing. Or if you're a sub, like it's not that easy to have those resources. So to know
Yeah.
like there are books and online resources and Twitter and everything, it's sort of comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So you made a little map of what we're doing next. What am I reading up until
yeah.
next?
So, um we're reading from Standing Up Against Hate
Okay.
until Black Teachers, Black Youth, and Reality Pedagogy. So it's 9 chapters.
Okay. And then, so we're obviously out of, yeah, never mind. That was silly. We're obviously out of the politics one. That
Yeah. So
thing.
we're gonna like move out of the politics, do all of Safety Matters, and then
Perfect.
first 2 of Race Matters.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, how do I exit this Zoom? Like with making sure it's like saved.
Um, I don't know. Does it just save automatically?
I guess we're gonna find out. It must be. It says pause/stop recording. Why don't I try that and see?
Yeah.
Pause/stop recording.